A good one here, and eventually we will like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, help promote and rank up my channel. So we're going to be reviewing Come Play, a horror movie that recently came out. It's pretty interesting. By the trailers of it, it looked like it was going to be your typical cliche horror film revolving around a child and a haunting, but it's got a pretty fresh take, a modern take, and I found that pretty interesting, even though it is still somewhat cliche. So let's get into it. Alright, so Come Play is based on a short story called Larry, are more of inspired by a short story Larry. Regardless, the guy, Jacob Chase, that did the short story Larry, got the opportunity to make this a full-blown movie, and pretty much what takes place in the short story actually takes place in the movie. Almost exactly the same, but things are a little different. For instance, the monster that's in this thing is much better and really awesome in my opinion. But Come Play is a movie about an autistic child and a monster named Larry who travels through electronics, phones, tablets. He's chosen Oliver, who is equally an outcast and misunderstood, and he begins sort of hunting him, but not really, because the motives aren't exactly. The movie is really about friendship. It's all about friendship. So let's just jump right into it. Right, so all the positives on this one, the acting from the child, Oliver himself, who plays this autistic kid, is pretty top notch in my opinion. As someone who has an autistic child, I was especially interested in this, despite the trailer looking so cliche. I mean, but the film, it feels like a very modern take, as you've got Oliver using tablets, you've got those like Instagram face filters that make your head look different, and not knowing someone else is in the frame, then seeing another head pop up. I felt like that stuff was effectively used. This film effectively uses things like that. The laser pointer, the distance measurer, the sticky foot, and the fact that Larry is invisible to the human eye, but not to using like phones, tablets, electronics. So the film uses modern technology to really feel fresh and up-to-date take on this kind of largely cliche story that gives it its own spin, its own fresh feel for originality. And you get some really great moments too from the actors, from the major characters in here, some terrifying, some heartbreaking, and some despicable. The relationships, the relationship Oliver has with the bullies feels really fleshed out from where it picks up to where it ends, and I found that very satisfying, along with a single incredible strong emotional reaction from the father at a certain point in the film. The terror and anxiety that Oliver delivers to those fearful moments felt very authentic. Like I said, I've got an autistic child. The way, you know, just the actor presents himself, the way that he behaves and reacts to certain things when he's like understimulated or overstimulated. It just feels really authentic. So I was blown away by the main character's performance. And as for Larry, our monster, the slow, gradual build up to his increasing presence, the drawings, the story about him on the tablet, phone, all of it effectively builds the tension to where when he finally shows up, when he's finally on screen, it just works so damn well. So to that, and to actually see what the monster is capable of doing to someone, I don't want to put any spoilers in here, but what he's capable of, there's just some really strong moments in this film. I felt the ending was absolutely phenomenal, though somewhat expected. It was really good. So, like, my personal bias on this one is pretty much just I have an autistic child, so I have more of an interest in seeing it than other people. And I was captivated by the authenticity of the child actor's performance as the autistic kid. Uh, that I thought that was well done, and because my autistic child uses a tablet, there's just a lot of things in here. The dinosaur sheets, like on his bed, and there's quite a few different things. The way like an autistic child will obsess over something, um, as kind of with the SpongeBob stuff in here. SpongeBob is used a lot throughout here, but the electronic stuff and all that, I kind of have a personal connection to this kind of film, even though it is very cliche in its own right. I do feel that it does use things that are fresh to keep itself feeling fresh, to keep itself apart from this stuff that's been done 1,000 times. Bad things on this one. The movie has a lot of misleading jump scares that fall flat. It has familiar elements, all too familiar elements that can feel cliche as a result. It's got all these like story tropes and beats that have just been there, done that 1,000 times over. However, the film actually is more compelling and interesting and original than the trailer leads you to believe, are the vibes the trailer gave me anyway. So there's quite a few other things in here. The acting isn't always the best. The parents don't get as fleshed out as I felt they should have been. The pacing gets a little bogged down as it feels like it's restraining the plot from propelling forward due to the lack of substance of other characters. While there's some incredibly strong moments for specific characters, there's also there's a few that come off as a little forced from the mother, a bit over the top. I feel like she misses the mark more often than not. Like she's missing the mark a bit here and there. And while the father largely gets lackluster material that hinders any potential of some kind of outstanding performance, there is one moment in there for him where it's really good. But for the most part, I was kind of surprising that the acting from the mother was as iffy as it was, because I've seen her before. I've seen that she can act really great, and here it didn't always feel so great. It didn't feel always like so authentic. Whereas you have the child actor of the film feels more authentic than anybody. The children actors themselves feel more authentic than anybody, but you gotta hand it to the kid that plays Oliver. He really takes the show. So, it's just got its fair share of cliches and familiar stuff that we're going through here that kind of prevent it from being something huge or spectacular or something mind-blowing. Um, yeah, and that's unfortunate in itself, because it does do a good job as a creature feature. It does do a good job with the acting from the kid, and to run with that as like a main character, an autistic child. There's so much you can do with that there, and they showed that they could do it effectively. One thing this film did do effectively was knowing its strengths and playing to them. All right, so ultimately, I would give this movie a 6.5. I mean, the movie isn't a tightly weaved together tale where every moment is building tension and momentum. Every now and then, you get one of those scenes that's meant to give some kind of jump scare that doesn't move the story forward along with the scares. Its originality is hurt by it existing alongside of similar and all too familiar story beats, tropes. Uh, some stuff feels like obvious foreshadowing, predictable, but it does do its own thing. Modernizes this kind of stuff and effectively plays to its strengths. And because I have an autistic child, my personal connection bias might lean a little bit toward favoring this one more than other people, because the actor that played Oliver was convincing. Uh, very convincing. However, I felt the mother wasn't always convincing. So 6.5 out of 10. It is original. It did have, have that going for itself, but just because it hits a lot of the same story beats and stuff like that, it just feels like been here, done that. However, it is worth watching. Definitely repeat viewings. No, probably not. I mean, I wouldn't go back to see it anytime soon. It's not that it wasn't good. It's just it wasn't good enough, and it's not that it was bad. It wasn't bad. It was likable. So if you want to see a new film, something fresh, interesting, that also feels a little familiar, then go for it, because that's what this is in a nutshell. So 6.5 out of 10. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Did you like this one more? Did you like it less? Do you think it's awesome? Do you think it's stupid and ridiculous? I just bad production values and bad everything. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. If a good one here, eventually we will stay awesome. Rock on.